Okay, so good morning and thank you for joining us for another episode of Chamber Live. I'm Jessica Colvin, Manager of Business Development and Member Services here at the Greater Kingston Chamber of Commerce. In the modern business world, few ideas are more important than growth. That's why we've invited Shari Hughson, entrepreneur in residence at the Smith School of Business, to share her insights on scale-up business models. Now, before we get started, I would like to thank KPMG for sponsoring today's session. KPMG has been serving businesses in Kingston and Eastern Ontario for over 100 years. With over 40 professionals locally, KPMG's office in Kingston operates as one unit to bring new ideas and opportunities to clients in both the private company and public sector space in audit, accounting, risk management, business advisory, and tax. KPMG is managed locally in Kingston, which allows them to make client service decisions quickly. This local strength is complemented by their ability to access KPMG professionals from across Canada and worldwide as needed. Now, kindly note that today's session is being recorded and will be available on our Facebook page for viewing later this afternoon. Please know that we're also happy to receive your questions throughout the presentation. I would just ask that you submit your question in the chat box that you see on the side of your screen. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker. Shari Hughson is an entrepreneur, social innovator, and extreme adventurer. She started her first business in her 20s and won Entrepreneur of the Year. She has owned 6 health companies and 2 e-commerce businesses, including her current company, Wayfound. Shari won a national honor from the First Nation Health Authority for a project impacting the mental health of a remote community. In 2021, Shari was awarded SME Canada Top 50 Business and Entrepreneur Leaders. She is a travel and wilderness fanatic and pushed her limits by living off the land with only bare survival essentials for 7 years. Shari is an engaging public speaker and MMIE Faculty on innovation, entrepreneurship, social enterprises, and courageous leadership. Please welcome Shari.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Appreciate it. And I always start with your bio is always the good stuff. Your bio never, we should do a, here's the other bio of the things that didn't go so well. So I am going to share a few of the things that didn't go so well during this presentation. And I just wanted to do a shout out to Tarek, Sindar's one of my favorite entrepreneurs, and I know he is a partner of yours. So thanks for being here. So we're going to talk scale up and growth today. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, you should be able to see the screen now. And I've got my chat open. I'll keep an eye on that as well. I love to connect with everybody on LinkedIn, and I'm always willing to help support fellow entrepreneurs. If anytime you just want to jump on a call and do a quick brainstorm or a quick walk through a question or anything you're looking to get some answers around that are hard to know who to talk to, because as an entrepreneur, that's one of the toughest things as a business owner is who could I talk to that might be able to help? All right, we're talking scale up today. So always have to start with a definition. So there's growth companies and scale up companies. So growth companies, what it means if you're a growth company is that you have a relatively linear increase in your resources and costs as your revenue increases. So as your revenue goes up, if you're making a 2.5% return, your revenue goes up and your 2.5% return stays there. So more revenue, more actual cash into the bottom line because you're 2.5%, but it stays the same. The margin stays the same. A scale up, this is what people don't often get. Revenue increases without substantial increase in your costs, meaning your profit margin is growing versus the dollar only. So your expenses are relatively stable and the ability to maximize your profits with the similar resources is what is changing. So that's the difference. And most people think, I'm going to just skip that, that scalable is what everybody wants. And I want to start this presentation with saying, even though it's called scale up, you don't have to have a scale up businesses. Scale up does not mean best. Scalable is often misused to describe a company's potential to grow in market share, revenue, and profit. Growth or non-scalable is often misused as well for companies that have or will exhaust their growth. Both grow. Growth is a part of both types of businesses. So growth businesses can be great. Do not underestimate your growth business, because you're going to probably hear one of your businesses in my scenarios and you're going to go, I got a growth business. Great. Excellent. I'm going to show you, though, from one of my examples of how you can convert a growth, traditionally a growth business, into something that is scalable. So growth businesses can be great and have a really rich life for people, and they can grow huge companies. Even scalable companies, there is an end to their growth and profit margin. It doesn't keep going up. You can never get to 100% profit margin. So there is an end where now they're a growth company. There is a place that they scale to. They might get from 5% up to a 45% profit margin, and that's it. Now they're growing, but they have a 45% profit margin versus the 5%. So your goal with a growth company is to maximize your revenue, because that maximizes the cash on the bottom line. Even if your profit margin is 2.5%, if you've got a $1 billion company, 2.5% is awesome. So the great thing about growth businesses, it's very easy to calculate where you break even, because you know exactly where that's going to be. So you know your minimum revenue needed to be profitable. It's easy to know your max revenue. How much revenue can you get to with the resources you've currently got? So I used to know in my home healthcare business exactly when I've reached the end. So I had it calculated down to the point that I knew my current team of management and staff, and we're hundreds of people, this is as far as we can go in revenue. And I had it down to a science. So I knew as we started to get close to that revenue that I'm probably going to need to hire a bunch of people again. I'm going to push my team as hard as I can up to that revenue point. I'm going to stay at that revenue point, pushing them to their max, pretty much almost overwhelmed for a while till I go, all right, I think we're not going to go back down too far from this revenue point. We've made it to this growth point. All right, let's add the next manager, add the next group of staff, and off we go from minimum again to our maximum we can do with the resources we've got. Once you're in that min-max revenue zone, your profit margin is relatively the same. It's easy to manage efficiencies, fairly easy to manage sales. Your profit dollar increases with revenue, not your margin. So maximize your revenue, maximizes your profit. That's a growth business. They're good. They're great. Millionaire Next Door. There's tons of these out there. So who are they? And this is where you guys might all be doing the, that's me. Example of growth industries. And then I'm going to ask after this what businesses you guys are in, so I know what we're talking to. So the sectors that typically are growth companies, typically not scalable business models, are the service industry, professional businesses, accounting, legal, consulting, location-based businesses, trades, hospitality, manufacturing, because there's an end to your resources there, retail industry, e-commerce, actually, sorry, e-commerce, leave off there, retail industry. Okay, this is where I want to hear what businesses are you in? So you can come off mute if you want, or put it into the chat. Tarek, I'm going to pick on you. I know you're in the pharmaceutical retail. Insurance, yep. Professional again. Finance, yep. Sharing industry, nice. Usually a scalable model. IT, we're going to come back to IT. Who's IT? Rick. Retail, yep. pharmacy, customizable storybooks. Nice. On hard topics for young children. That's great, Danielle. All right, some of these are growth companies. Some of these are scalable models, which is fantastic. And I know, Tarek, you've got the retail pharmacy, but you are working on a scalable model. I know that. So poor Tarek, he's just going to be like, oh my God, why am I here? I'm being pointed at. Insurance, it's a tough one, sort of in the borderline of growth versus scalable. Finance, typically not a scalable model, now becoming scalable with fintech. Sharing economy industry, typically is scalable. IT, depending on if you're a sole proprietor or you're doing a tech, you're software developers. If you're software developers, not a scalable model, that's service-based. If you're a SaaS-based company, that's scalable. Retail pharmacy, not scalable, unless you go to, and I won't share Tarek's great innovations. Customizable storybooks, absolutely scalable. Older adult transportation with a little bit of home care. Very difficult to scale, wonderful growth business. P&C insurance, broker, I'm assuming. So brokerage is typically service, not usually a scalable. Tarek. Thanks, Tarek. All right, I am actually now just going to go back and show you when I was in. So these are my companies. So the ones that scaled, home health care. So that was, hi, Jonathan. Yep, I was able to scale that. I scaled it by franchising. I'm going to talk a bit about how do you scale. There's tons of different ways you can scale. CBI Health. CBI Health at the time when I became an owner was a physio and rehab clinic. Physio rehab clinics, not scalable. We scaled CBI, and I'll do that one as the big example because it's absolutely everything I'm going to show you about how do you scale something that really is not a scalable business. Wello telemedicine, technology, scalable. We found mental health service industry, typically not scalable. I've joined them in May. I've invested in them, chief operating officer, and we have 2 digital products coming out very quickly, all scalable. I've consulted over 250 companies in 12 different industries. So even though my base has been healthcare, scaling is the same thing. It's about business models. It's about innovating and coming up with ideas that you can scale, meaning revenue growth, expenses relatively the same, and increase your profit margin. These are the ones that didn't make it. I had a mental health rehab company 20 years ago. Didn't make it, failed miserably. HRG Medical Center, failed miserably. These 2 were back-to-back. Successful WeCare, first business. I was 25, franchised, cross-Canada, national company, sold it in my early 30s, did 2 more companies, failed, bankrupt. Oops. All right, scaling didn't work there. Neither did growth. The whole thing didn't make it. I can certainly go into failures and talk about that if anyone wants to talk about that, or how do you wrap up a business when it's really on its last legs? How do you make that decision to pivot, persevere, or perish it? The 3 Ps. Square Deal Outlet e-commerce, we have 8 stores. We've actually closed them. And I've done over 25 other businesses that folded very quickly. These were long-term ones that folded later. So I've been there and attempted it, and it doesn't always go the way you'd hoped. So you can, this quote I love because it gets it right at the heart of what I'm just going to talk about for scaling, and then we're going to come back to some of your businesses. You can scale up a business, but without a scalable business model. So it's about business models, and I'm going to tell you what that means. You grow rapidly, and you can grow rapidly without lowering your costs, and you will never be able to create a profitable business. So don't start trying to scale something and go rapid growth If you do not have the right business model, you will fail. And I've done it, been there, messed it up, and got the wounds for it. So it's about a business model. And people are like, what? Business model? I'm going to actually skip Amazon. I'll come back to them later. Why might you want a scalable business model? So the difference between growth, great business, excellent businesses, you can have a trade and grow that business and have a wonderful life. And that is a fabulous company. A scalable business model, you really need to want this because it definitely consumes your life. And the reasons you might want it, you want exponential revenue growth. You want to expand out of your location. So you want to grow beyond where you're located. Exponential revenue growth with an increasing profit margin. So you can grow without an increasing profit margin. Remember, they're two different things. With you might also want a scalable business because you want a sustainable operating system. Something that's able to handle the growth, something that doesn't need a lot of your finger constantly fixing and fixing and fixing, which I'm sure all of you feel like sometimes, that your entire business constantly needs you. Scalable business models don't need you. That might be a yes, that's what I want. And of course, this is the primary reason people do it. It can drive investment. So it can then drive the opportunity for a higher business valuation when you want to exit. So growth businesses, there is a cap to it because it really is the value of your revenue, value of your earnings, your profit margin's relatively the same. It's a multiple of earnings. Great, you pretty much know what you're going to get at any time. Pretty easy calculation, really. Scalable business models, exponential valuations. And so your exit goes way up. But you might have to deal with investors as well. So business models are the trick in this whole thing. You have to set the stage to support growth without being hampered by your resources. Your resources are typically people. I said it. People typically hamper your growth. They can only handle so much, but so do some of the other assets in your company. People, machinery, the actual physical location can hamper. That's an asset. Those are the resources that they can only do so much and they're done. They're overwhelmed. They can't do more unless you actually grow them while you grow the revenue. So to set the stage to increase your revenue without expense growth, and I'm going to after initial costs and effort. So there is a cost of setup. There is a cost to convert to a scalable model. So you do need to be able to figure out what is the business model you're going to, what is all the stuff I got to put in place to get that business model working without damaging your current operations, without damaging your wonderful growth business. You got to make sure it's okay. This is right now Wayfound Mental Health Group. That's why I came in, because they're sitting in that delicate spot. They are a growth business. They are a clinic. They are mental health providers. That has to stay steady and stable while we convert and use the money there to get a scalable model. We're using a digital transformation. And we can't drain this company that it can't make it. We can't put it at risk because then the whole thing falls apart. So it's a timing thing. It's a cash flow thing. And everything comes down to cash. Once the model is set up, which we are almost there, 2 weeks, we're going to launch the first digital product out the door. So that then has to still get supported. We've got it made, built. Now we've got to do all the sales for it. So you need a repeatable, simple processes repeatable, simple processes for your operations and your sales. Those are the two elements that you have to systematize. You have to come up with a business model in which you can systematize your operations and your sales. So remember I said a scalable business model cannot need you, the owner. The switching from being the hands-on owner and it's my baby to delegating and stepping over here is really, really hard leadership switch. And if you cannot do it, you will not succeed either. So there's also a big leadership brain shift in this thing as well. So I'm going to come back to those. This is CBI Health. I'm going to use it as the example because I think it really shows it. So it's a physio rehab business. So it's a clinic. We have multiple clinics, so we've grown the business. We've grown the business prior to us buying it. So we purchased this business when it was a good company. It had, I think, around 150 physio clinics across Canada. And it's a growth business, right? So we add a new clinic, revenue, expenses, we get the same profit margin over and over and over and over again. We purchased this business. There was a group of us and a venture capital firm because we felt we had figured out a scalable model. So this is what we did to systems, to systematize it in order to get a scalable model, in order to go sell it in a very repeatable process. So I'm going to jump to bullet number 3 on the system side, on the left-hand side. We did 3 scalable operation changes. So physiotherapists in our clinic, our business, they're the most expensive person to provide care. So what we did is we had to come up with a model in which we could convert our most expensive person to high, what do we really need them to do, and try and get a bunch of their work pushed to a lower paid, highly capable staff member because we can't drop quality. So, for example, we brought on a whole bunch of kinesiologists. So kinesiologists are exercise physiology people. They understand wellness, holistic wellness, in some ways better than a physio. Physio really understands the physical piece of it. Many of them are also wonderful holistic practitioners. And so we know that all of our pain, our customer isn't our actual patient. Our customer is WSIB. It is disability insurance companies. It's auto insurance companies. It's Veterans Affairs. It's the military and Indigenous. These 6 groups are outside, if you didn't know this, are outside of our healthcare system. They aren't paid. Any of these people don't get paid for their healthcare through our Ontario health system. They're paid by these organizations. So that our customer is actually those paying sources. Really get clear on who your customer is. Who's paying you? Our patients are our actual clients, patients, users, whatever you want to call them. So we knew that our customer needed these people to get back to functioning to get off claims. Every one of them. To get back functioning in the world. It's a great thing for the patient as well. Back to functioning, back to wellness. Our physio, we could just do regular physio over and over and over, 8 sessions, one-on-one. Our profit margin is going to stay the same. That's normal physio business. Physiotherapists provide you your care. It's one-on-one. They can do 1 person at a time, and they got maybe 3 going at the same time. That's maxed out efficiency. So what we did is we had our physiotherapists set a care plan, do the assessment, set a care plan, and hand the actual delivery of care off to a kinesiologist. So we've now upped our profit margin. Number 2, we went to group-based programs versus individual care. So now one kinesiologist might have 10 people that they're taking care of, And we bonused KPI bonuses for all employees on outcomes, client-patient outcomes. We remodeled all our clinics to an open concept, team care versus individual care. So the physios would be walking with a new client that they're assessing through the team-based area where the kinesiologists are with 10 of their people, and they can do, hey, how's it going, Joe? How's it going, John? Great to see you doing exercise, blah, blah, blah. You've really progressed. They're seeing all the people that they're responsible for without any time. And then they take their person into their room, they do the assessment, they move them into our kinesiology groups. So we remodeled clinics, we came up with a team-based model versus a individual model. We bonused everybody on outcomes, getting people to wellness, which meant for our customer, pleasing our customer, get them off claim. So we basically came, the other top two, where we did a customer-centric data collection. So we actually created our own technology to automate all our admin processes. And we also, in that process, automated and started to gather data. And this is long before data was a thing. Healthcare still, it isn't really a thing. Long before data was even used as, oh, data is a great business to be in. We were gathering data, and that's what drove sales. So we changed our model. We then took the data, outcome data, in order to get easy, rapid sales. So data was proof of getting a desired outcome. So it was really easy to walk in the door and do a presentation and show our data, and our competitors are like just talking, we're quality people and we're really efficient and we're effective and wonderful, caring people. That's great. We get data. So data automated our sales. Sold contract after contract after contract, national contracts, provincial contracts, easy sales. We also, because we were so hyper-focused on outcomes, all of a sudden, our client, the actual patients, our net promoter score went way up. If you don't know what that is, go check it out. And now word of mouth was actually driving clients as well. So even before we'd done a proposal or a presentation to one of these big players, they were already hearing up through the claims managers saying, oh my God, you got to go here. Oh my God, it was awesome. They were also telling their buddies back at work or back wherever, oh, you got to go to them. They can fix this. Oh my goodness, you got whiplash in a car accident? Oh, go to those guys. Easy sales. Easy staff recruitment. We had highly engaged, highly rewarded staff. So now we're paying better because of the bonus model. The high quality, if you were a crappy kinesiologist or physio and your outcome data was showing it, you didn't stay very long. We didn't have to discipline. We didn't have to do performance management. We didn't have to get rid of you and pay a severance. They just left because peer pressure, or even without anyone else knowing about it, they knew, ooh, that's my outcomes? I'm going to go to the physio down the road here and nobody checks up on me. They were gone. And high quality staff attracted high quality staff. So down go our recruiting costs, down go our management requirements. So reduced management, reduced our hiring costs, attracted and it changed our outcomes. So we went from, in 3 years, from making those changes, revenue of 6 million to 54 million. A profit margin from 12% to 42%. Employee satisfaction, pretty good already, 82%, 96%. Customer net promoter score was 30. So again, good company when we bought it. 30% to 72%. Anything above 0 is considered good. Greater than 50 is excellent. Greater than 70 is world class. 32% is the global average of net promoter score for all businesses across the world. If you don't know what your net promoter score is, you'll want to find that out. So I'm just going to back up. Any questions on what we did? Okay. Hopefully that helped you sort of get a sense of the things you're going to have to think about if you want a scalable model. All right. Okay, sorry. Okay, so scalable business models. There's sales and operations innovation. So in sales, some of the things to increase cash flow are new markets or customer groups, new related services to offer to what you're already doing, or new ways to sell. So new market or customer groups, Amazon, for example, which is one of my examples in here, switched from an e-commerce site making zero money to a third-party reseller. So they brought in other sellers who are making the tiny margin and are growth businesses, and they're taking money off all of them. Effort goes down on Amazon's part because everybody else is doing the selling, and they're just taking a commission off everything. So new market group, instead of straight to customer, they're now a B2B. New related services, you see this quite a bit. Loblaw is a wonderful example of this, where they've got alcohol, they've got Joe Fresh, they've got online sales now due to COVID, they've got a finance arm. They've got multiple related services that people can get all in one place. They've also added, many people add new ways to sell. So affiliates could be selling. This is a great example out of China. It was a cosmetic retail company who were all retail stores in China. It's one of the best growth stories I've heard out of COVID. And they were a big company, and COVID hit, and they had to shut down every single retail outlet. They've got zero business. They went from a wonderful, solid cosmetic company to nothing overnight. They very quickly, and they've stayed with this model, they very quickly converted every single sales associate into what they called affiliates or ambassadors to the product. They set them all up. So here's your front end cost. They set them all up with social media accounts and their own websites, and then they promoted them and did advertising for their affiliates or ambassadors. Well, the sales associates went nuts. They all took their own personality, added it to their own social media, it's theirs, and all of them got excited about being an influencer. They taught them how to be an influencer. They taught them how to take what was unique about each of those people and spin it out. And so they each became famous. Hundreds and hundreds of these people across China each became an influencer, selling the brand. And their sales in the first year, sales revenue jumped 400% in the first year of COVID. And their profit margin jumped 22% overnight. They went from a growth business to a scalable business very quickly. Find models with a repeatable, rapid sales process. And I'm not going to go into these. Take a picture if you want. You can go look those up. You've got to find a way to get lower customer acquisition, a lower churn rate, loss of customers, increase the lifetime value of them, and the viral coefficient, which is net promoter score is who's likely to recommend you. Viral coefficient is who actually did, the number that actually did. So it's an even better score than net promoter. In operations, you've got to come up with a model that you can repeat. It needs to decrease or keep the costs the same moving forward. So you have to take away all complexity. So when we franchised WeCare, it's a whole system, right? So we had to systematize our business. How did we operate the one location? We systematized it all, followed this, and this. Every single role, every single function became an automated as much as possible or a people process. We did with WeCare also build technology way back when, because that would have been, hate to say it, 30 years ago. We did create technology because technology actually is the way you get scalable. You got to get comfortable with technology, and then process everything for people, and then figure out customer-centered outcomes, know what to measure, and know how to modify those going forward. And I'm going to go to here first. Couple of thoughts on what you guys might do here in Kingston, little old Kingston, with the businesses you've got. This is a bit about innovation. So you do have to do a bit of brainstorming about internal, what can I do internally, and what can I do externally. Both are critically important. Brainstorm with your customers or new customer groups or with students. For example, Master of Management, Innovation, Entrepreneurship, they love to do this. You can get a group of them to come together and brainstorm for you. They know disruptive technologies. They can help you see some other business models that you may not have thought of before. Actually engage in a student project with one of them. They're all looking for projects. Every one of them need a year-long project. It could be their own business, or it could be something for you. Technology. Please start learning technology. There are several disruptive, if you just Google disruptive technologies, you're going to see what they are and brainstorm with yourself. How might this work in my business? What could I use Internet of Things on? What could I use cloud computing? What could I use AR for, augmented reality? What could I use holograms, really going out there? So there is amazing technology that's coming or here already that you need to start using if you want a scalable model. AI, machine learning. We have one of the best machine learning departments in Canada. And we've got the CAC, the Advanced Computing Center. I'm not sure if I have the letters right. And they help you figure that out. So start using some of the resources sitting here. Join innovation and tech groups. There's a couple of really good ones here in town, and just go. You don't have to be a techie. Go and listen to them. Student projects and hiring. I put some examples there. Take a pic of this. Learn scaling up. I've put a book there, Vern Harnish, Scaling Up, or the other book, Hacking Growth, and the authors are there. Partner with different or new companies or people. So find other businesses that might be a great partner to yours and do a joint venture so that you're basically buying in to an opportunity to scale something, if there's a tech company especially. University opportunities, and there's tech transfer department as well. There's amazing, every university around the world has a tech transfer department. Go see what's out there. Go see what somebody's doing in your field for research and go, there's a commercial opportunity. And you partner with the researcher. They usually get like 10% on a license agreement. You take their tech and go use it for your business. So I've got Queens on there, but they're everywhere. And partner with faculty and students. And I put a couple on there for Queens and St. Lawrence. And hang on, where'd my Amazon go? Amazon. I'm going to just go back here because people all think about Amazon as this major thing. The original business model was retail. That is a growth business model. They're an e-commerce seller, growth business. Your cost of goods, your sales stays relatively the same, even if you're drop shipping. But they were a huge global growth company. So don't be fooled. You can grow a growth company. Just means your profit margin doesn't expand. They started in 94. They were a public company in 97. And they had their first profit 7 years later. They had their first profit when they are $1 billion in revenue. Profit was $5 million. Nothing to sneeze at, but that's 0.5% profit margin. That was their best ever in 7 years. So they had a problem. And they were working on it behind the scenes. They changed their business model. They added in this third-party marketplace I referred to. So they're now taking commission and sales from other retailers on their site. That reduces their cost, automates the sales. They're just getting money on everybody else doing sales. Amazon Web Services, they added in, which is cloud computing. Does it fit with their model? It sort of does, because what they've switched to is not B2C. Every change business model was a B2B. Third-party marketplace, it's Amazon and another business relationship. The business here is selling, they're taking money. Those businesses over there need a secure place to do business, Amazon computing, cloud computing. And digital advertising in 2008, and now they're the third largest digital media advertising company in the world. That's their business. Everybody thinks they're still an e-commerce site. That's actually their business. There's their model now. 113 billion, profit of 8.5 billion, a margin of 7.5. So they grew revenue and profit margin. All right, I'm going to stop there. Let's hear and brainstorm some ideas or questions. Well, hello there, Jonathan.
Hello. That was amazing. I've been texting my co-founder who is at work, Tim, saying, Tim, we are right about a few things and more wrong than we thought about others. This is amazing.
It's true.
I have a question about where to spend my time as we transition. I shouldn't say transition, as we add in some scalable stuff. As you know, aging in place is a big problem, and everybody wants to do it. And lots of governments now, especially in Canada, which spends a very disproportionate ratio on home care versus long-term care compared to other nations, they're saying, entrepreneurs, aging in place, remote monitoring, what do you got? And we're on our second iteration. We started with an augmented reality app. We invalidated it. I wouldn't say it failed because we invalidated it. We kind of nipped it before.
Yeah.
And now we have 2 engineers, and we're building some hardware and software to help with remote monitoring, more frequent communication with remote care teams, and ultimately trying to help people age in place and prevent significant health events, not help them after they've fallen, prevent the damn fall. My question is, we had people come to us and say, we got to submit a patent application. We've got to, we have to get all the stuff in place. And I'm saying to my partner, we don't even know how wrong we are yet. We're probably less wrong, but we're still in the wrong category. We have no validation. So should we be spending our time talking to people, doing the pitching song and dance, submitting patent application for something that's inevitably going to change? Or should we just be kind of head down, doing our thing and trying to get the customer validation and not worrying about finances and protecting IP at this point? It's
a great question.
Yeah.
Great question. So there's 2 ways you can go on the IP, and then I'll come back to that. Number one, definitely just get to the customers. The customers, well, remember 2 things. You've got a user. That's what you've got to validate it with. But what is your customer willing to pay for, right? Because it depends on who's paying.
Mm-hmm.
So you need validation from possibly 2 places. The government, if that's who's going to pay for it, but you truly have to prove it out with some front from the client.
Mm-hmm.
You have to prove they'll use it, and that it actually fixed something for them or did whatever it is you're saying. So that is 100% where you need to put all your energy very quickly, quick pilot, and you don't need a ton of them. People think oh my God, I've got to do all this work. No, just get like 5 to 10. 5 to 10 is a good enough sample to validate or disvalidate, or whatever the word is, not validate. And then patent, there's 2 ways you can go. We typically now are saying to people, get to market. Get to market and grow very quickly. Don't worry about the patent side of it. So the quicker you can get to market and grow, but you got to be really ready before you start to get to market. So do a bunch of pilots, figure out your customers, maybe even keep your customers in the wing, get a whole bunch to sign up, and then hit the market running. So crowdfunding does that for any other businesses. Crowdfunding does that for you. It bunches a whole bunch of customers. It validates. That's all crowdfunding does. It's not about crowdfunding. It's actually about validating your product, getting people to prepay you, and then you can go, oh, geez, people actually want this. People are willing to pay X amount. Good to go. Yours, you're not going to do that because it's unfortunately it's seniors, which are a harder group. So you have to either rapidly get to market, might be hard being government because the cycle is long. So you may want to just, when you're ready, not yet, do a patent pending. It's cheap. Just do the initial patent pending paperwork. You get 1 year before you got to file the final papers, where it gets expensive. In that 1 year, you got to be ready to go nuts. So timing that, go nuts. Nobody can touch your product for that 1 year. You got to get to market. You got to, so do the validation ahead of time, then get to market, then file the patent pending. You got a year. Does that help?
Yeah, that's amazing. And it definitely nudges us and refocuses us on what we have to do right now, which is kind of relieving actually, because this is what I don't want to say no, but this is what we're closest to knowing. Yeah, okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Anyone else?
And monitoring the chat here. I don't think we have any more questions right now. I'll scan the room as well. We've got a quiet group this morning.
Maybe I should jump in because I need to point at Shari because she's pointing at me the whole day. How are you, Shari? Thank you very much for the wonderful talk. It's really amazing to have you and giving us all this value. So you mentioned that retail pharmacy, for example, as an example of retail, is a very difficult or almost impossible to kind of scale up. But with the technology, do you see any hope for traditional brick and mortar kind of like businesses who need to have a location to expand in the virtual world?
Yes. Yep. And so of course the easiest way for a pharmacy to scale is franchising or a licensing model and location based. But I know that you and Cinda are dabbling in the technology space. I do like the business model. I'm not going to share it with everyone. I do really like your business model. I know you guys have struggled to get it to gain traction yet. It is a good business model and it can scale because all of those independent pharmacies, the neighborhood pharmacies, there's thousands of them in North America. And so you've got to, you're onto a scalable model. There's something that isn't resonating for some reason with those owners. And it really does go back to customer discovery to go, okay, why are you saying no? And they're never going to tell you the real reason right away. You got to really dig to get to the real reason. Why are you not signing up for this thing? Is it that they've already got technology somewhere else and this doesn't add anything further for them? What then are they missing out of the technology they're already using? So could you just use that feature to get them to come over? Like why aren't they jumping all over that? Because the only thing I can think of is they've got some tech from somewhere else. Or they don't get the value prop. They're not understanding how they can scale up and increase their revenue with very little effort. Because that part of your business, one part's going to stay growth, one part is going to stay scalable. So it's sort of like Wayfound. We've got our clinic, it's just growth. It's never going to do anything more than it's going to do. And then our tech side is what we're trying to get the scale and the profit margin increase on. And that's what you've got to convince those other pharmacies of. Something's holding them back.
I kind of know, but thank you, Shari, for very, very thoughtful insight.
Thanks, Tarek.
I had a question. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. So I guess one of the things I was interested in, Cherry, is when you were talking about like how it's important to make sure that your processes and like operations are repeatable, or like you can be removed from it and it can still function and flow. And I think for us right now, like my team, we're called Beano Books, and we are very like much in the early stage. So we're writing the books, we're getting an illustrator to make the book. Like it's very manual right now. So I was just wondering like what kind of activities or like thought processes do you use to like figure out how you can make things more repeatable once you're out of that like early like MVP, like very manual stage?
Yeah, you've got a long way to go on the growth side of it first. So you've probably got a couple of years until you can get enough assets, enough books. And then really, as a book company, it's your retail, right? You're selling a product. So it's a growth business. What's scalable though in the author world is everything else that goes with the books. So it's all the other things that you can add in that upsell the customer. So it's figuring out a business model that engages them somewhere in a community in which they continue to buy something further. That there's something else that they want that does not take the resource that you need. So yep, there's always going to be somebody who's got to sit there and write and draw. That might be you, and what a great place for you to be if that's your creative, right? And then the business, you've got to set it up that it just is churning out revenue with a couple of staff. You probably don't need many, that make you an influencer around the world. And then advertising is your easiest scale up thing online. Sponsors, so it's affiliate marketing for other products. It's all those online things that someone else eventually can do for you fairly easily. And you don't need a ton of them. But you got to get your assets first.
No, that makes complete sense. Thank you for going into that.
Last call for questions. Does anyone have any? I will say as well, in case anyone isn't comfortable asking in this format, I know it's being recorded. If you do have a question that you'd like to ask offline, please do send me an email and I'd be happy to connect you with Shari.
Thank you, Jessica.
All right, so I think that might be all the questions we have for today. Well, Shari, I just wanted to say thank you again so much for participating in our Chamber Live and for sharing that presentation with us. It was very informative and I hope everyone got quite a few takeaways from that. I would also like to thank KPMG for sponsoring today's session and making it possible to gather this morning. We hope to see everyone again for our next Chamber Live, which is happening Tuesday, December 7th, for a tax and accounting update from our friends at KPMG. So thank you again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.